Hey everybody, Matt from RideHub here, and on this episode of Trail Physics, we're going to be looking at the Gouranga exit rock here in Squamish. Now, there's been a few videos that were made about this particular rock move, mainly because this rock got featured in an enduro race last year, and there was a pretty unbelievable crash on this particular move.
Is it going? Yeah!
I will say this is a very, very high consequence move. Very difficult trail. Gouranga is actually rated as a single black trail, and this exit option is rated as a double black. So this is definitely not for the faint of heart. Even myself, every time I go to ride this, I really have to think about concentrating and focusing on the precision of my line to make sure I can stay in control and exit the move safely. Something that makes this trail super, super challenging is just the amount of vertical feet it loses in such a short distance. So you tend to pick up your speed pretty quick. The safest thing for a rider to do is to try to ride this as slow and in control as possible. And you'll see why when we get to the exit. Now, this is also one of those moves that changes throughout the year. I rode this earlier in March and had a very different amount of traction than I do now in July. We're gonna break this into three pieces. The first is the bowl. The second is the spoon. And the third is the run out. Now, the crux of the Gouranga move is going from the bowl into the spoon. So the bowl is this first run-in, and you can see we're kind of surrounded by rock entrances. The primary entrance, however, is in here. Now, on this particular move, there's less options for lines, but what we'll do is go down and take a look at the primary line. What I want to be able to do is keep my speed under control, but I still have to allow the bike and the tires to roll over all of these bumpy rocks. So I have to be modulating my brakes to allow the momentum to continue so I don't get hung up on anything in here. Then we hit a bit of the crux where we come over and on to the main slab. Then at which point I really want to start getting my braking under control so that I can get ready for my entrance into the spoon. Now, you have a bit of leeway in deciding where you want to go, staying away from all the loose debris because that spells a disaster for your braking. Same thing on the right side. We want to stay out of this loose, loamy dirt. We want to try to stay on the rock. So as we come down this rock, we're looking towards where our exit of the first move is and looking for our entrance to the spoon. The actual rolling entrance is just a little bit to the right. And again, very, very close to where all of this loose material is. We're actually going to aim to roll down, stay a little bit to the left, and get up onto the knuckle. You're going to try to track your wheels a little bit higher up onto the spoon, and then enter down through the middle. As we carry ourselves down this rock, we transition at this point to the much steeper second phase of the spoon. I'm going to try to walk down it without dying here. And here's where we enter the G out of the run out. Once I get onto this dirt, slow myself down. This is my last opportunity. If your speed isn't under control, you may end up shooting straight down the middle, which is definitely more of a drop. As we move down this root knuckle, we still have more roots all the way down, a little bit of a knuckle. You can roll down it and then head towards your exit. Now, the exit for this is relatively benign in comparison to what you just rode. Now, this rocky exit bit does get a little chundery here towards the end. However, it's a nice straight line down to the exit. So what we're gonna do now is roll into the bowl, stay controlled, enter into the spoon, and then keep our speed under control to the run out. So from the top, there's actually a number of different things that compound the entrance. It's not necessarily a very straight or smooth run-in. You've got some off-camber roots, thread the needle here between these rocks. The entrance itself is pretty janky. You've got a lot of this broken rock here, little places where you can kind of get your wheel caught up, especially down in this area. So lots of different challenges just on the first roll in into this bowl. Because this move is very, very steep, our primary goal rolling into this bowl is to maintain a slow and controlled speed. The actual roll in itself isn't that difficult. However, where the challenge exists is trying to slow yourself down, getting your speed under control before you roll into the spoon. So just to give you some idea of how challenging it can be to keep your speed under control here, we're gonna pull out a clinometer and see how steep this incline is. So let's see what the clinometer says. 55.9, 56.1 degrees here. So yeah, it's steep. And then that transitions onto roughly a 20-degree pitch. This is where you have to bring the bike almost to a stop. From the entrance of the first pitch, you only have about 15 feet to slow down and get into control. Now, if you choose to take a more rider's right line, you're on this slab for a longer period of time, which means you're gonna gain more speed. If you can enter the slab a little bit more on rider's left, while it might not look like a lot, that extra 2 feet between these two entrance points creates a much different speed profile. And because you have less distance to travel on this very steep slab, you'll probably be able to keep your speed more under control. Making sure you enter across this rock is important because you definitely don't want to have your tire fall into this notch. As you roll in, if your body position is too far back, you'll find the front tire loses traction and you won't be able to bring the bike to a stop. If you can't slow the bike down on this pitch, it's going to make your entrance into the spoon very, very fast and subsequently make your exit even faster. If my speed is under control at this point, I can now start aligning myself for the transition onto the spoon. Now, the important thing here is understanding where your eyes are telling you to go and where you actually want to go. The thing about this is your eye is very, very drawn to this white rock, and you see this as a nice straight line. The challenge, however, is this transition from here to here. This is very, very steep, very, very off camber. It makes for a very difficult braking transition. If you try to get heavy on the brakes right here, the bike is gonna really wanna slide to the inside. However, what you should do is think about rolling down this rock to the left of this white rock and going up a little bit on to this knuckle. Now, just to give you a little bit of perspective, that's the knuckle. You'll see it flattens out just a little bit here, which will allow you to slow your speed down just enough to have a more controlled entrance and exit to the spoon. Riders who take this inside line will tend to pick up a lot more speed as they head to the exit. So what we'll do is air a little bit to rider's left, get our front wheel onto the knuckle here, allow ourselves to slow down a little bit, and then commit to our turn. What can sometimes happen as you commit your turn into this spoon is the rear tire, if you're a little heavy on the brakes, will have a tendency to want to start sliding to the inside. If the rear tire starts sliding to the inside, we need to modulate that rear brake so the rear tire can start tracking behind the front wheel. As you move down the spoon, the camber tends to flatten out, but it then gets very, very steep. The reason it is super important to get your speed under control on the first and second phase of the spoon is because most of the problems happen in the run out. If a rider's traveling too fast, by the time they hit the second phase of the second rock, they'll have a tendency to want to air off of it, causing them to land very, very hard into the dirt. If a rider comes down the second phase of the spoon out of control, once they get into the dirt, it's very, very loose. It's going to be very hard to get your speed back under control before you end up going down a large set of route staircases. That's quite the step down. And then it happens again and again. And you can see in this run out, it's all very loose dirt to more loose dirt. It's very easy to lose control. If something does go wrong here, it's gonna hurt. We've got logs and trees and rocks, lots of different things to hit, none of which feel very good. So that's the Gouranga exit rock. Thanks again for watching this episode of Trail Physics with RideHub. If you wouldn't mind, please subscribe. It helps us continue making this content. And I think it's time you should go outside and go ride your bike.